here with the CEO and president of Big Brother and Big Sisters of Miami. And it's a privilege and honor to be here representing the Pishavar Haynes Foundation and serving as the CEO and founder of Dr. Haynes Collective, executive coaching. We're going to dive in and talk about our methodology, but this is the first time that Mr. Nelson has been sitting in the guest chair and bestowing the honor of me sitting in his chair, which is a big chair to fill. And I hope to be able to do the honors well here today in my first podcast interview with Mr. Gale Nelson. Welcome to your own studio.
It's a pleasure to be here, and it's new because this is okay. I've never seen this side. It's like riding in the back seat of your own car.
Right. It's a great method example of what it takes to shift lenses and take a different seat sometimes and see what it's like from the different perspective. Here I am today as the Chief Operating Officer of the Pishavar Haynes Foundation, as well as our family office. And our family foundation focuses on increasing access to healthcare, education, and economic resources for individuals in underserved populations, but using technology for good. So I'm here, so honored to be able to interview you, Mr. Nelson, about the way that you have been able to find greater balance in your life, as many people want to find greater balance between work and life. The 5 pillars of Dr. Haynes Collective include career, financial is the first one, leadership and growth is the second pillar, health and education is the third one, and the fourth is health and wellness, and the fourth one is family and intimate relationships, and the last one is community and network, which is why we're here today, about building community, building a network that we can share our knowledge and learn from you, and how you've been successful. So if we could go back to how it started for you and where the middle of your story, life story, and how it's going now, and what you want to leave as a legacy behind of all the good work that you're doing today. So if you can look at maybe 6 adjectives and apply them to the 5 pillars that we've talked about, it would be wonderful to learn from your life story as well.
Well, I tell you what, it's a pleasure being here. I just had to say that for the record, and I mean that sincerely. Your leadership, your passion for what you do it's been a tremendous blessing to meet you, to know you, and to just team up and be a part of the Dr. Haynes Collective. Beginning, middle, and end. When I think about the beginning, the baby boy born in Lincoln, Nebraska, parents divorced when I was 2 years old. And so the reason I go there is that drives me every day. And I met my dad in the Bay Area. Met him in Oakland, California, well, technically San Francisco International Airport.
Wow.
That's where I met my father. And so when I start with something like that, based on the divorce, I mean, adult things happen, but kids are affected and impacted. And it just bothered me trying to connect that dot. So the first adjective I would use for this first phase of my life was really kind of confused. It's like, why? I see pictures of him in his Air Force uniform. He serves the country, but why is he not serving his own household?
Right.
And so for a young man growing up inner city, a young black boy growing up inner city, hearing all the statistics, seeing all of that, and it's like, I guess that's me, confused.
Wow.
Meet my dad. But the gale force winds of Hurricane Andrew in 1992 brought me to South Florida.
Wow.
And so Hurricane Andrew hit August of 92. I'm here in South Florida to build a relationship with my dad. He was a contractor in the Bay Area. He was seeking to rebuild South Florida. So although we did not grow up, although he did very little for me growing up,
Right.
The adult relationship, where I actually was, again, just getting out of finishing my undergrad at University of Toledo, and having that relationship with him here in South Florida, Sarah, was interesting because that allowed me to, 1, become a part of this community,
Correct.
2, seek to reconcile, and it never really fully reconciled, if you will,
Right.
but that put me into this space of service in South Florida, working for his construction company. I didn't want to do that long term, but it was still part of that how do I build that relationship?
Right.
So that second phase was excited,
Right.
confused to excited with my dad. I'm working. But then I really began to see such need, such opportunity here in South Florida. And that led me to this ongoing leadership phase that I'm in right now. Passionate, resilient, focused. Because this relentless pursuit of perfection, as some call in the sports world, this Mamba mentality.
Yep.
And even my voice, I feel my voice changing as I say it because that's
It's
what drives
empowered.
me as a husband, as a father.
Yep.
I'm the dad I am today because what my dad wasn't, who he wasn't.
That's right.
Going back to the beginning. So from confused to excited to resilient, passionate, and just focused today, and to have an opportunity to lead Big Brothers Big Sisters Miami, to help kids who are just like me
Right.
in phase one. So as we talk about those adjectives, there's kids who are confused, who should be excited about their own abilities, and more importantly, and most importantly, just understanding that there's nothing wrong with you.
Right.
Our kids don't need to be fixed; they need to be encouraged.
That's a wonderful, wonderful metaphor. I'd love to build on that. In the construction world, as it were, we continue to see somewhere that's completely flatlined, completely confusing to look at, to see what is this, land going to look like, right? If you look at the same metaphor and you continue to scaffold and build on the foundation, and that foundation is really important, right? And to understand that the life adversity tends to build people in two different directions. One where they actually are able to strengthen them based on those experiences, or allowing them to be pushed aside. And that what you've decided to do is take that experience and build on the things that may or may not have been provided for you, and do the opposite. There's a Persian saying of, where did you learn your manners from? And it goes, loses translation a little bit, but basically that you learned your manners from people who don't have manners, right? You do the opposite sometimes of what people do, and you realize, I don't want to be that, whatever that is. And that confusion in life, and finding a life partner, and dating, and all the different life stages that we go through using Erickson's developmental process is really how I look at the world. And that's why I asked the question of where it began, where you are today, where you want to be, the legacy you want to leave behind, which is really important as well, is to understand that we want to be able to find people that are going to help us and challenge us to be able to continue to learn, to be able to share, to be able to build. And that positive impact that you're making on the community is so incredibly important, of being able to teach people what it is that they want in their life, that they may or may not have provided as an example, but you're serving as an example. The mentors are serving examples. And as you know, we learn in different ways, by actually doing or observing what the behaviors that we want to do. So as a clinical psychologist, it's always, for me, an honor to be able to learn the things that make someone who they are. So I appreciate you sharing that story, and it's so important to understand where your values come from as it relates to these 5 pillars as well of Dr. Haynes' pillars of growth. When you look at your life, what do you think are some of the best examples or advice that you've heard that helped you shape who you are and into the man that you are today, serving your community so well?
Well, I love the Persian quote you mentioned, because it speaks to the power of mentorship as well, because you can have people tell you things, but when you see it,
Right.
say, I don't want to be that.
Right.
I don't want to ever feel or make anyone else feel like he or she is making me feel. So when we talk about advice, it's been through exampleship. There's people have coached me up and have talked to me, but I watch, very observant.
Yeah.
And when I see behavioral patterns,
Right.
when I see folks, the way they carry themselves, I mean, I think about my Uncle Daryl, and he would get dressed up and he'd carry himself. I would see folks on TV. I mean, with the limited resources we had growing up, an incredible mom. Thank God my mom's still alive, and she was such an example of sacrifice, working 2 jobs, working in a business office during the day and cleaning those offices at night.
Wow.
Talk about a tale of 2 cities. And so she worked at a place called Child Study Institute, CSI, in Toledo, Ohio. That was juvenile detention.
Wow.
And so now, as I work with children and mentor children of incarcerated parents, look at this full circle.
Wow.
As I work with I had a meeting with the police chief today, a local police chief, city of Miami. And so when I think about what I've been around, the advice through example,
Right.
my mom would always say, again, and just be happy. And so when this becomes work for me, I got to do something else. I love what I do. The legacy, because I
Right.
didn't mention legacy in the first question, a
Right.
legacy of service, a legacy of giving, but also I cannot be around folks who don't like to have fun. One of the things I ask people in interviews when they come to work for Big Brothers Big Sisters is, what do you do to have fun? It's not so much your social life and all of that, but
Right.
what makes you smile
Correct.
is the specific question. So best advice, hey, have fun. Do what makes you feel good,
Right.
but also don't always think about just yourself. It's not about Gale. Yeah, I'm the baby in the family, and I'm needy. Just ask my wife, ask my mom, ask my kids. But I don't ever want to grow up.
Right.
I want to have that youthful spirit every day God gives me,
Right.
so that I can serve.
Yeah, so you went from the confusion to being curious and observing
Yes.
what it is that you want, the life that you want to build, and the father that you want to be, by using those values. So it sounds like your mom was a great example of the hard work it takes and the sacrifice it takes to build the next generation, to give them the opportunities through that hard work. And it's important when you look at these different pillars of finding balance. What do you think is your biggest achievement as it relates to your financial and career pillar, of your personal intimate relationship pillar, your personal growth and leadership style, as well as your community and network, and health and wellness? Because I know that's an important part of your priorities as well.
When I look at the Dr. Haynes Collective 5 Pillars of Growth, and career, financial, leadership, personal evolution, health and wellness, family intimacy, and community network, my greatest achievement within that space has to be my family. Think about where I came from.
Yep. It's
Baby
everything.
boy, parents divorced age 2, disconnected, wanting to, I'm spitting image of my daddy, spitting image. He died about 12 years ago. But his salesmanship, his charisma, yeah, there is no doubt. I am his child. My brother is just like my mom. And God bless all of them. But my point is, as I look at the 5 pillars of growth and my greatest achievement, because family encompasses all of that. What I do, having my daughter sit in the studio and do an interview last week, check the box. Oh my God, how that makes me feel.
That's great.
My daughter just got a scholarship from the National Association of Black Journalists. She's going into journalism. So having a mom who raised me on her own. So I love being around powerful women because I was raised by one.
Right.
It doesn't, I love that. And so it all works together because my family and what I do every day in the various contexts, being a part of the Dr. Haynes Collective is powerful because I'm surrounded by people, who want to make a difference, who are making a difference, who are humbled by their own success. And it's not about talking about me, but at the end of the day, you know what? I'm happy to be shoulder to shoulder with you and to make even a bigger impact. So my greatest achievement, no question, my family.
That's incredible. That's really important. When you look at the foundation that we talked about and scaffolding based on your strengths, being able to know what your strengths are and your curiosity to learn and your charisma and to be able to build relationships. I mean, what you've accomplished in our relationship with our Bishop Haynes Foundation through Irie's introduction, with the Irie Foundation is really important, is really to remember also to dance with the people that bring you to the party, right? When people extend their network and reach out to you, make sure you give back to them and make sure you give credit to them and make sure that you are bringing them along with you and reach back to the people who may not necessarily have the same opportunities. And you've done that through your beautiful work here and feeding so many people through the pandemic. We gave masks through the Bishop Haynes Foundation, Irie Foundation, to make sure we protect our community here in Miami, and the food and all of the toys for the kids. And these are the things that really make a difference at the end of the day, and the legacy that you're leaving behind, in my humble opinion, is all the great work that you're doing in addition to the family and raising another great human being, a male, female, what have you, to carry on your life story, to carry on the legacy that you have. So thank you so much for the incredible work that you do today, and the messaging and the work that you're doing that will continue beyond you, with all the youth that I saw today outside getting off the bus to come through here to your incredible programming. So I encourage everyone in the community to learn more about how to be able to sponsor a mentor. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Absolutely.
It's only $1,500, right?
At the core of what we do, you're exactly right. The core of what we do, and thank you for the question, is we make that match, that one person to be that trusted friend and counsel,
Correct.
to be that beacon of light. But it's not about it being a superhero. Just be yourself.
Correct.
And we interview the bigs, the mentors. We interview the children, likes, dislikes, hobbies, interests, anything you've gone through.
Right.
My story is my story. So when I mentor, like my little brother Isaiah, who's not, his dad's not in his life, I can relate to that kid. So as his big brother, I'm there for him in a non-judgmental way. Just encourage him along the way. So for $1,500, basically about less than $4 a day.
Less than a latte.
That's exactly where I was going. I was going cappuccino, but cappuccino or latte,
I'm reading your minds.
we're right there. So for less than a cup of coffee, you can transform and ignite the power and promise of a child. And so investment, it's a good investment. And the benefits, the positive yield from investing in a child, the next Dr. Sarah Haynes, the next professor at Wharton School of Business, the next tech giant, the next female business owner. That's worth the investment.
Absolutely. We're always looking at the return on investment, the ROI, and everything we do in the business world. And I think at the end of the day, when you look at the bottom line, certainly you need funding to be able to continue to provide jobs, to provide opportunities. And it's so important to realize that all companies can actually donate. It's all tax deductible as well, correct?
That's correct.
And they can sponsor youth to come through for a day and come to the actual offices when they open up, so they can see what it really looks like. And I think that's really one of the most important. When I was a professor, I did career expos where students would be able to ask, what does a day in a life look like? Right? Because many people, including myself as an immigrant, I didn't know what it was like to work in a lab, and I realized when my aunt was able to take me into her lab and inject mice with insulin, with saline, I learned, wow, this is really interesting to be working in a lab, what it looks like to be a scientist as a woman. That gave me an example, and that I could do that too, that it's not rocket science, that these are just people just like all of us, and that's so important to see that you're capable and you're able to do the kinds of work that it takes to be a successful individual that makes a change in innovation in science and technology. And it's not something that's out there that's only for, Einsteins, right?
Right, that's right. And to your point, we have a workforce development program. It's called School to Work. So for all the tech companies or any company here in Miami, once a month, and we can do it virtually if they're not meeting in person at the office, once a month, high school students are still matched with their big brother or big sister. They learn about the culture, the environment, the pre-employment requirements, if you will, for entry-level positions. And so now that little girl, that little boy is exposed to corporate culture, exposed to the technology. And so when they graduate from high school and go on to college, they know exactly what they want to do or maybe what they don't want to do. That's the power of mentoring. So it's not just a feel-good. I always use the phrase, mentoring is not just nice, it's necessary.
Wow. That's so important. And the necessary parts of life and finding balance and stability and being able to really take everything that you've learned and make it into a positive is something that I always celebrate as a psychologist when I meet people who have gone through adversity. And that's actually one of the questions I asked during my interview, is what's a defining moment in your life that changed your perspective to know that you can handle anything.
Mm.
That you may have looked at it at the beginning like a tsunami, like I'm not going to be able to survive this big wave that's coming at me, and then you do it, and you look back on it, and you see the wave is behind you, and you realize you've made it, and you're safe, and no one can harm you. No one can take away your education. No one can take away your safety when you are able to learn how to get through the wave or jump over the wave. But sometimes we need support to be able to have instruments to be able to get through those storms. So you provide a lot of the skills training here at Big Brother Big Sister, and I'm honored to have you as one of the experts in Dr. Haynes Collective, along with so many other incredible people that people can tap into and learn about what it takes to build a nonprofit, to be able to give back to the community and still make a good living. And even the nonprofit doesn't pay that much, I know. It's the impact that you have on the human condition is monetarily so much more powerful and impactful sometimes. And certainly being able to do and access your coaching and advice for people who are interested in learning about community development, community building. A lot of the companies need to know how to be able to navigate building a community. And as a tech startup, that was most of my work, was building relationships. And when you look at relationships, I want to just highlight how you've been able to build relationships yourself. Is for me, and our family values and our family trajectory as immigrants was about building relationships that are long-term and building a collective community where you help support one another. All of us have come from collectivist cultures. The United States is the only one that is not a collectivist culture, that's focused on independence and all of that, which is really a great value. But at the end of the day, we need to go back to our roots of collectivist cultures so that we can help support one another and help show and teach our skills and knowledge. And I'm wondering, what have you been able to learn from in terms of the different values that you've had in building long-term relationships rather than transactionary relationship? And that's really different, and it's important one to talk about networking. A lot of times people exchange information and knowledge. It's a one-way street, and they don't look back to see what they can add value. And I always say, add value before you ask to extract value, because people will be more likely to help when you do need something. And it's not a quid pro quo necessarily that you're waiting for something for them to give back to you, but you put enough seeds out there that one day, God forbid, you do need help, or you want to help somebody else to be able to get a foot in the door in a company that that they're qualified to be in, to learn from, that you have that network to pull from. So what do you think is your key advice, or that you've been told, or others that have helped you be able to build such incredible relationships in the community?
Relationships, I mean, that's really been the key to my leadership growth and impact and success. Authenticity.
That's it.
I've seen so many times the transactional mindset.
Right.
You meet somebody, and before they get back to their office, there's a proposal on their desk. No, it's impersonal. Right. It can be sometimes even professionally offensive.
Yep.
And when I get your heart, when you get to know me, then you want to do business with me.
Right.
That's it. And then I don't say that in a boastful way,
No.
but my values, my passion for humanity, the relentless pursuit of perfection, who doesn't want to be around that? That's like saying, this person could really help my team. We could score a lot of points and win a lot of games, but no, I'll pick someone else that I need to really motivate. It just doesn't make sense from a sports standpoint. So the key to positive relationships has been that authenticity. I'm consistent, fair, firm, and also consistent. And so with that leads to more and more relationships where there's been times where I haven't even written a proposal. People come to me and say, what can we do together?
Right.
There you go.
Right. That's so powerful, where people want to help and be able to open up their resources to share with you. So you've said a lot of really impactful, important things. One thing I just want to double click on is when you said to be consistent. It really is, when you look at main values for most people, is trust, right? And if you're consistent, I can trust that you will show up, that you will be there for me when I need something as a child, for your parents, from your relationships and the partnerships, from a work relationship, that you show up on time and you say you're going to be there. And if you can't do something, to let people know ahead of time or as soon as you can. It's that communication. It's so important to build trust so that people know when you are a man or woman of your word, then it's everything.
Everything else is easy.
Everything else is easy. So showing up is one of the most important things, being ready to play the game of life and adapt to what it presents. So is one of the main things we've learned about today. And I've learned so much from you just in this little bit of time, and I look forward to continuing the conversations and different series that we're doing here with the Dr. Haynes Collective and the Pishabar Haynes Foundation, and looking forward to be able to make greater impact and bring our community members here to see this incredible facility that you've built, to be able to help serve the community with career and skills development, to feeding the people who are hungry and are struggling through COVID and so many of the economic challenges that they're facing, but also to give hope to the next generation to know that they can be the next CEO and they can be a female in transportation and work with Usain Bolt and build and go through to Japan and Paris and Germany and UK and do all the things that I've been able to be blessed with because someone believed in me and a man, including it's my father and my brother have given me this opportunity to be able to, and this country has given this opportunity for me to be able to have the freedom to pursue my education as a woman. And I'm honored to be here sitting in your seat and to be able to share.
Well, thanks for having me.
In your own place.
And it's funny you mentioned a game of life, and typically in this same space, it's my catchphrase is, in the game of life, everybody makes the team, but how you play is up to you. And I'm so glad to be on the team with you to help others grow and develop.
Our family is honored to work with you, big brother, big sister, and we're going to do this whole series, and excited to share the rest of the folks that are going to be on board, including Wyclef, who's honored us to be here. So I'm excited to
That'll be fun.
have his knowledge, and he's brilliant, and definitely represents the A in STEAM, but also technology and innovation. And so lots to do there, and lots more work to do together. So, all right. Thank you so much.
Thank you, my dear.
To many, many more chapters together. All right. Have a good one.